Big sky, big potential. This is Eastern Promise. Welcome to the 71st episode of the Eastern Promise podcast, going live on Thursday the 27th of July, Norfolk Day. The perfect time to hear from someone whose work has shaped both the county and the region. As we prepare to bid farewell to the new Anglia Local Enterprise Partnership, I'll be talking to outgoing Chief Executive Chris Starkie about his 13 years at the helm of the LEP. I'll be getting his reflections on its achievements, on its spiritual predecessor, shaping Norfolk's future, and looking at the shape Norfolk has taken since, and getting Chris's recollections on the earliest days of the new Anglia LEP. And finally, today is Norfolk Day, unless you're listening tomorrow, which could now be yesterday. Whatever your temporal positioning, let's share your messages of Norfolk-inspired jubilation in this week's Crowd Sorcery. After 13 years, central government has said it is minded to call time on local enterprise partnerships, or LEPs, transferring their functions back into local authorities from 2024. LEPs were established in the earliest days of the coalition government in 2010, and there can be few bodies over recent years who have had such a transformational effect on Norfolk and Suffolk as the new Anglia Local Enterprise Partnership. Helming the new Anglia LEP from day one has been Chief Executive Chris Starkie, who had previously helmed the public-private initiative Shaping Norfolk's Future. Along with a succession of exceptional chairs, Andy Wood OBE, Mark Pendlington, Doug Field OBE and CJ Green, and an amazing team drawn from across the region, Chris turned New Anglia into one of the most highly regarded LEPs in England and successfully secured large amounts of investment for Norfolk and Suffolk. I caught up with Chris in his final days at the LEP as he prepared to step into a new, but not unrelated role as Director of Growth and Investment at Norfolk County Council. You have, I think it's fair to say, seen a lot in terms of the growth and development of Norfolk and Suffolk. Can we just start perhaps getting with the potted history of Chris Starkie, and then we'll move on to think what I sort of loosely termed the LEP's greatest hits.
Okay, so I helped establish the Local Enterprise Partnership back in 2011. Going backwards from there, I was previously Chief Executive of Shaping Norfolk's Future, which was Norfolk's public-private economic development partnership. And before that, I had more than a decade as a journalist. So I started my career in Derbyshire, South Derbyshire.
Right.
Edwina Curry was the local MP on a newspaper called the Burton Mail. I then moved to Bristol, Bristol Evening Post, and was the business editor there for a number of years before joining a start-up radio station in Bristol as the news editor, and then transferring up to Norwich, to Anglia Television, where I worked for 18 months as a producer in the newsroom, and then moved backwards from TV back into print as the business editor of the Eastern Daily Press for 5 years, which takes us through to when I moved over from the Eastern Daily Press to become Chief Exec of Shaping Norfolk's Future. That was in 2008. Business was my specialism for a number of years, and then across to economic development.
So you've come in day one. I mean, I remember I was sort of working in small P politics at the time the LEPs were established, and you've come in day one as the new Chief Executive. What was your view then of what the LEPs could achieve. I mean, you were slightly sort of, like all sort of public-related authorities, you're sort of slightly, always going to be slightly victim to the tinkering of whatever Whitehall, Westminster decides it wants to do. But what was your view?
So my view was, here's an opportunity to, I suppose, build from the bottom, build from a pretty much clean sheet of paper. In a minute I can show you the original business plan, but it was created on somebody's kitchen table, a plan. Right, if we don't have any budget, so we're not constrained by budget. That
I recognise and associate myself with that kind of
so
idea.
We weren't constrained by budget, as in we didn't have to make choices. But if we wanted to grow the economy, what areas would we focus on? So there was kind of a bit of a liberating feeling. Same time, I guess there was a recognition that, well, without any budget, this is going to be quite hard. So I do remember Andy Wood, the first chair, his view, and Andy Wood as the first chair. Huge credit to what the Local Enterprise Partnership has achieved over the period, really down to the vision of the chairs. And Andy was, well, let's create a clear vision for what we can do, but get some quick wins in. So gain some credibility, because back in 2011, nobody knew what a local enterprise partnership was, let alone what it should do, and it certainly didn't have a track record. So the approach was always to say, right, we need to prove ourselves, prove we're capable, prove that we can make a difference, and most importantly, add value. Adding value, otherwise there's no point in existing.
Looking back, what would you say are the things that the LEP achieved of which you are most proud? If it's a big question, but
it is. It a little bit depends on. I mean, there are a huge number of things. Genuinely, there are a huge number of things that we've achieved, and so it would depend. Perhaps if you asked me today, if you asked me tomorrow, I might give you a slightly different list. But I think the enterprise zones have been enormously successful. Proof that relatively modest intervention by government can deliver accelerated growth. That's what it is. It's about how do you encourage inward investment, encourage local investment, and accelerate it. So the programme was fantastic, particularly our first enterprise zone, where we were doing things the team had not done before, hitting the original targets we submitted to government. Everyone puts ambitious bids into government for things. We actually achieved the targets we set. Second one would be our growing business fund. So at a time when government it was austerity time, it was it was looking to reduce the size of the state and increase the private sector. How do you accelerate private sector growth? And one of the big problems we have in this country is a lack of private sector investment. So how do you do that at a time when things were not going well? So the growing business fund has invested in, so we've invested 20-30 million, and business have invested 5 times that amount in. Yeah. And the good news is we can count every penny because we can see it, and it created several thousand jobs as well. So those two things, as we're sat here now, are standouts. But I'm also proud of the skills projects. So College of West Anglia, the new university centre, had been an aspiration there for a decade. The Energy Skills Centre in Lowestoft, again, they've been wanting that for a long, long time. And I know roads aren't terribly the thing we're supposed to crow about, but again, if you look at the Bury St Edmunds Relief Road, that has opened up that industrial estate, which again the borough had been working on trying to get funding for with the RDA for again several years. That now is one of the most successful industrial sites in the region. Huge development there. It's enabled companies like Treat to stay in Bury. international headquarters and so on,
Yeah.
and has brought about really significant growth in Bury St Edmunds.
So let's talk about Lowestoft.
Yep.
And for my money, and I say this on the podcast a lot, that this is the most exciting time to be in the east of England.
Yep.
When you have science, life science. I mean, we're on the Norwich Research Park,
Yep.
the global home of plant science. And you've got Cambridge down the road, and Cambridge doesn't need any help from me in selling itself. But you've also got the clean energy piece, and as we said, we've talked to Jonathan Reynolds at Oppergy, and we raved about the clean energy piece. And it's a situation, I think, that we have everything this country needs in the east of England for the future. Lots of other places have got bits of it, I don't deny that, but I think we've got the whole package, and I think we alone have the whole package, and that's a tribute to you and the new Anglia LEP for the work you've done building that. Rightly, you have been recognised rightly, as sort of amongst the foremost LEPs in England. So what is your view on how we're going to grow somewhere like Lowestoft and Yarmouth when we've got all this investment going into the renewable energy, offshore wind infrastructure? More facilities means more vessels means more crews means more activity in the supply chain, just like Sizewell C. How can we make the most of that? I mean, obviously Great Yarmouth's going to be your bailiwick going forward.
Yep. So is the question how we generally can make use of it, or what are we asking government to do?
Well, no, I'm thinking about us really. One of my mantras is, let's not worry. Let's see what the levers are in our hands, and before we worry about government. And what I was actually going to go on and ask you is how your experience is of dealing with government, because it's interesting to compare, experiences. But Lower, how can we, as a region, as a county, as the LEP now, as Norfolk County Council in the future, I can foresee a future where Lowestoft and Yarmouth are transformed quite easily if we get it right. I say they're all we, but
so look, there are a number of building blocks to a place, but a successful place has thriving industry, commerce at the heart of it. Look at Cambridge. Cambridge's success is built on its universities, yes, but not just its universities. It's the businesses and the sectors. They are the beating heart of it. The university helps feed that and so on. In Lowestoft, the challenge we've had over the past decades is traditional industries have been in decline, and it's also difficult to attract Lowestoft because of its location to it. Let's say a high-tech Cambridge-style business isn't going to pick Lowestoft because it's geographically on the margins, which is why offshore wind, the energy sector, has to be its heart, because Lowestoft is the best place to be for it. So you have to maximise that. And I think, how do we ensure that businesses in that sector choose Lowestoft? Well, we need the right premises. We need the right skilled labour. It needs to be accessible to, obviously, to the offshore market, but also to the rest of the UK as well. So how we can grow the cluster? You then provide the business rates, the people to buy the houses that you want to develop, because there's no sense in just building a massive housing estate if there's no business and industry and people there. So I think developing, enhancing and maximising the economy is the critical piece, and in a sense all flows from that. But the kind of what I say really is we need to learn the lessons from the gas of the 60s of offshore gas and so on. The huge wealth that was generated by the exploration for gas in the Southern North Sea did not stick. Not enough of it stuck with Great Yarmouth and Lowestoft. It was, multinational companies would come in, they'd sort of helicopter people in, live figuratively and literally. It didn't transform either town, and I think that's for me the learning we have to capture, because just growing the economy on its own does not work. You've got to make sure that it's embedded within the local community. And that's why investment in local skills, so local people can benefit from the new job opportunities, is so critical. Ensuring we've got the right premises so that our own businesses can grow and start up. We're not just reliant in international ones dropping in a satellite office and then deciding, well, we'll pull out and so on.
Cambridge Norwich Tech Corridor.
Yeah.
And now one of the things that I've been fondest and having a lot of fun doing is getting into Cambridge and engaging with businesses there and growing the podcast there and the message as well. And I've been actually, once you've sort of found your way in, there's a lot of openness that I've found to looking east. And and again, I think that the possibilities, not instead of the Ox Camargue, as well as the Ox Camargue, that the land of the Ox Camargue, and I'm just going to riff for a second, so bear with me, is going to be quite expensive. Whereas look at what we can offer. And that's something I'm hoping to return to with Eastern Promise in the future. But, and again, my thesis is, and I'll say this, everyone's going to groan, but is like a jigsaw. Jigsaws don't fit together every which way. You have to find the right connections to build a beautiful picture. Could be a puppy, who knows? So what's your experience of building those links between Norfolk, Suffolk and Cambridgeshire, and where lots of people will want me to ask where the Cambridge Norwich Tech Corridor sits at present?
So I think the Cambridge Norwich Tech Corridor is a fantastic concept.
It is.
It's a brilliant concept because you are providing opportunities for all. Let me just explain what I mean by that. So let's start at the Norwich end. The opportunity for Norwich, which we're sat here today at Norwich Research Park, a global research centre, but it's arguably a little bit on the edge of the map. How do you plug the science in Norwich, at the UEA, in with colleagues in Cambridge? How do you get them collaborating more? You actually have different parts of, to use your analogy, a jigsaw, different pieces of jigsaw which you can lock together, and so on. So there's opportunities for Norwich. There's opportunities for the kind of the space in between, if you call it that. So places like Thetford, places like Attleborough, Wymondham, there's huge available land, but there's also significant skills, particularly around manufacturing, agri-tech, but in a sense in the production piece, the manufacturing, the distribution piece. And then you take it to Cambridge and you say, well, why does Cambridge need all of this? It's got Love to the north, it's supposed to be working with Peterborough. It's Love to the south, it's supposed to be on this M11 corridor. And then there's, of course, the Oxcam. It can't cope with another one. But actually, I think there's big opportunities for Cambridge to recognise, I think, the skills that it doesn't have, which it sometimes struggles to consider that it may not have all the skills that are required, to the east. And as you say, there's the biggest problem in Cambridge is the price of the land. Second biggest problem is availability of workers. Well, actually, both of those you can find to the east. So I think there's some interesting sort of learnings and interesting opportunities for the corridor as a kind of dynamic ecosystem.
Now, when I spoke to Jonathan Reynolds, we talked about, his role as the chair of the innovation board at the new Anglia LEP. And this is a concern he raised, and I promised to take it forward. What can you say to businesses who are looking at the voice they have, and I'm sure this has been thought of, the voice they had in the LEP, and how that's going to be reflected in the new arrangements? So new arrangements, that doesn't the new arrangements. Yeah,
so the new arrangements. So the kind of structures will be county-based structures rather than across Norfolk and Suffolk. So those are the building blocks, because that is the direction of travel government wants to move in. Business voice, though, will be absolutely critical at the heart of this. So in both counties, Norfolk and in Suffolk, we will be developing fresh-out-the-box business boards. So the business boards will provide that clear business voice, vocal business voice. They'll be engaged in all parts of economic development in terms of the planning, of the strategy, overseeing and scrutinising and participating in the kind of projects and programmes and so on that are developed, and dare I say it, holding politicians and officers to account. We're working on the models for both of those because we've got the summer, the autumn to develop those, and Solon will be engaging with the business community in that, particularly to help shape that as far as Norfolk's concerned. I know colleagues in Suffolk will be doing something similar. The other thing to say is sector groups and the Innovation Board, we absolutely intend for those to continue.
Yeah.
And probably across Norfolk and Suffolk, because we've spent the past 10 years, I said earlier in our conversation that one of the great things about the Local Enterprise Partnership has been collaboration between Norfolk and Suffolk. You know, we can spar on the football pitch next season. It'll be interesting. Cambridge never really has that problem to worry about.
Well, I'm going to go and hopefully going to go and visit Cambridge United to look at their community work. So I won't mention that.
Don't mention that. But as far as the economy concerns, it's about collaboration. So whether it's the energy sector, whether it's agri-food, whether it's ICT digital, and definitely innovation, we want to ensure that 2-county collaboration, 3-county collaboration with Cambridgeshire, 4-county collaboration with Essex, where it works, is strengthened and continues, and the business voice at the heart of that.
When I did the event on the train, and we had a load of people from Cambridge, a load of people from Norwich having their little networking.
Apologies, I missed that. That sounded like a great...
But I wanted to do it again, and I will do it again. This time, my plan is to do it with 2 trains, one from Norwich, one from Ipswich. And if the Wi-Fi holds out, I want to do a Teams call between the 2 trains. That'll be fun. And hopefully that I know plenty of places.
One of my regrets of the year is not managing to... Well, I was double booked. So.
We missed you. But one of the things I did talk about with Jonathan Denby, he was stressing how the hourly service to Cambridge was basically an act of will to sort of force that through, along the lines of Norwich and 90 that you were mentioning earlier. And I have to say, I really do like the new Greater Anglia fleet. It's lovely.
It is.
It was completely different from my trip down to Foxton with the mayor of Cambridge from Peterborough, which was a completely different experience.
and sidetracking you as I am, for me, the London to Norwich trains are an upgrade. But if you, and as I'm sure you have, travelled Ipswich to Lowestoft or
I have,
Norwich.
I went out to see the Orbis,
Okay, so remember what the trains were like on that service before. So they've literally skipped a generation. So they've gone from, back of the class to front of the class, and I think for me that is the transformational piece of the new fleet. And actually, if you now hop on the Norwich to Nottingham service, you kind of realise where time
you do still. You really do. I went up to Manchester on that, so it was horrid.
So compare that with going on the Norwich to Cromer service.
Absolutely. I mean, I jump on the train to Cambridge as a preference every time. Where Mr. Lynch allows it, and that's been my problem. But I've not followed up with the train thing because I'm waiting. I'm not marching a lot of very important people up a hill only to march them back down because we can't get on the train. But when I spoke to the mayor of Cambridgeshire, Peterborough, Dr. Johnson, yesterday, he sort of, unprompted by me, said, "I want to tell everybody in Norfolk and Suffolk that I'm on Ely. I understand its importance, and you'll understand its importance. And I'm not going to ask you to make the case for Ely, because all our listeners will know what the case for Ely is. And I know that this will be, again, something that both Norfolk and Suffolk will be on in the future. What I want to say is, once we've unlocked that, I was really excited that, okay, we got to an hour by an act of sort of will and guts and push. Couldn't we do half hour? Can we do a half-hourly service? And now we've got this Cambridge South that unlocks our access by train to the biomedical campus. What wonders can we achieve with a half-hourly service?
Well, it would be transformational, and as the railway people will tell you, I'm sure Jonathan will tell you, there is something really psychological about a half-hourly service, because people know that they can turn up and they haven't got that long to wait.
Exactly, yeah.
whereas an hour still feels a bit of an impediment. So it is a transformational change. Look, I am the biggest fan you will find of Ely and Hawley, those particular programmes, and so pleased that Midlands Connect and Transport East have really taken on the arguing, the lobbying and so on for those. We've been in the trenches on those projects for, well, almost a decade, I should think, and participated, chaired various working groups in Ely and so on over the years, and so it's reassuring that Dr. Johnson supports it. I knew he did. I know
Yes.
Cambridge are 100% behind it. So it's one thing we have really had common cause around, and it's so frustrating that those projects have not been approved. So frustrating when you think, yes, they're a lot of money, but they're a rounding compared with the cost of HS2.
Yeah, and you have to look at what unlocks from that and all the fantastic things that can happen with a half-hourly service. That makes, people going both ways on the train. Because I remember when I was doing
But it's not really
casework,
just Cambridge, is it? You think about it, East West Rail.
Stansted Airport as well.
Well, Stansted now has a direct service from Norwich, but yeah, Norwich through to Oxford and so on. So that's really that's the kind of the aim and the aspiration.
Yeah.
But I agree, half-hourly service, transformational, makes such a difference in terms of the tech corridor. I agree.
Now, I'm not asking you to. Obviously, you've got priorities aplenty, I know.
Yep.
But where would we start? Where would Chris Starkie start in making that case? Is it a case we all have to sit down with a cold towel on our head and work out the conference, or do we just blaze in and say this is a great idea because it seems like a great idea, and do we start building that coalition of the willing? Where would you start?
The half-hourly service.
Yeah.
Well, fundamentally, we have to get Ely upgraded, and it's a kind of as simple as that. We have built the economic case. I think you're aware that it's stuck between the Department for Transport and the Treasury. The Department for Transport likes it. The Treasury says it's too expensive. So I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is we then have to work out what paths and what slots are available on that by opening up Ely. One of the things I've learned is that even Ely upgraded does not deliver everything that we all want on particular times and so on, because there are freight paths, do you want to improve I'm sounding really like a timetable engineer here, but do you want to improve Ipswich to Peterborough, for example? Should that increase and so on? So do you want King's Lynn to London to be half hourly? All of those have to go through that. So I think, so for me, it's trying to work out what are the priorities in that, and if there's space, and if there's then Norwich, Cambridge can slot in, because I think we have to think about the whole.
You have to see the whole board, and
Yeah.
it's easy.
Otherwise, Mike. Well, let's not get carried away, and it's right to get carried away. But I think otherwise you end up lobbying against each other in the region. So, what is the master plan for unlocking the maximum potential from those different corridors?
You mentioned Transport East, and we've got Creative East, and I know I've seen friend of the show, Robin Milton of Fairer Games out there, who's one of the current cohorts on the Great Growth scheme being run by Creative East. We had New Anglia LEP and its sector groups.
Yes.
So one organisation doing a lot. Are we now going to be seeing more sector groups? So basically, one topic sector groups cross-border, like Transport East, like Creative East. Are we going to be? We've got Tech East already, and Tim Robinson will be cross if I don't mention that. Are we going to see more like that, or is that still to be decided? So
our approach is that we will support sector groups on the geography that they want to work. So from a moving forward from a Norfolk perspective, there's huge benefit in collaborating with colleagues in Suffolk, and I think Tech East and Eastern Promise has shown that actually there's benefit in collaborating even further afield with colleagues in Essex and colleagues with Cambridge. The bigger you make the map, the more complicated it becomes, the more moving parts. But certainly our sector groups, it's certainly my personal intention and hope that they will continue. So we're at the moment asking our New Anglia, so the New Anglia sponsored sector groups, because we have a sort of federated relationship with them. So Tech East runs our industry council for ICT digital. We have an agri food industry council. We have an energy industry council now, and there's name as well to give 4 examples. So we're asking each of those, and the business folk who give their time, because I think one of the critical things is the amount of volunteer time by businesses, because they see that's the right thing to do. Do you wish to continue? Do you wish to continue? The Cultural Board, Norfolk and Suffolk Cultural Board, and so on. Do you wish to continue? If you wish to continue, we'll support you as Norfolk and as Suffolk, but as the 2 councils working together. And that's what we said we'd do, because what we do not want is a diminution of this collaboration, because collaboration is key and critical between the private sector and the public sector. That's how we get our economy really motoring and moving. So as far as I'm concerned, sector groups are really important to what I want to do in Norfolk, what colleagues want to do in Suffolk, and therefore sector groups, certainly I would like to see them continue.
Well, Chris Starkie, thank you ever so much for your time. It has been a pleasure to interview you. I can carry on for ages, but you're a busy man, and you've got a very important job to do now, and a very important job in the future. New Anglia LEP, I think it's fair to say, has been incredibly consequential for our region. It has done so many good things and supported so many businesses, large and small. It's done big capital projects. It's through its funds has supported so many small businesses. Thank you for everything you've done. I'm slightly taking liberties, but on behalf of the public and private sector, thank you for everything you've done as part of New Anglia LEP, and we wish you all the best for the future.
My thanks to Chris for that hugely insightful interview. Listeners to the Omnibus edition will have heard an abridged version of my chat with Chris Starkie, whereas you can find the full, unabridged version covering much, much more on your podcast feed or via the Eastern Promise website, easternpromise.org.uk. And now, it's Norfolk Day, a day that has caught the county's imagination and seen shops and public spaces bedecked with more yellow and black than the busiest, buzziest beehive. But what are your hopes, dreams and messages for one of our region's keystone counties? Let's find out in this special edition of...
Crowd Sorcery.
Well, this is David Powles, and I would like to wish the entire county of Norfolk a wonderful Norfolk Day.
David Powles there, former editor of the Eastern Daily Press, current chief executive of the Norfolk Community Law Foundation, and founder of the Feast of Norfolk Day. And we shall hear more from David momentarily. However, Michelle Chambers, Business Development Manager at Chaplain Farrant, says, what a great place Norfolk is. Uniquely placed on the coast with beautiful unspoiled beaches. The Broads for boating and wildlife, perfect for cycling and walking, as it's flat. Steeped in history and heritage. A global leader in offshore wind, more scientists than any other city, brackets Norwich, in Europe, and a region with a real sense of business community and friendliness. Keep nurturing what we've got. We wanted to know more, so, with a gentle prod from yours truly, Michelle continued. I tend not to be controversial on social media, she says, but here you go. Improve coastline defences. More walkways through farmland. Cleaner rivers. Improve infrastructure in and to Norfolk. Keep up with Cambridge growth to allow an effective Cambridge Norwich Tech Corridor, sustainably leading the way. Improve on skills and shortages in Norfolk and for Norwich to be in the Premier League. And who can argue with any of that? certainly not Saul Humphrey, managing partner of Saul Humphrey LLP, brackets, Certified B Corporation, Professor at New Anglia Ruskin University, Chair of Institute of Directors Norfolk, Chair of New Anglia LEP's Building Growth Group, and a non-exec director to boot. Says Saul, I echo Michelle Chambers' sentiment 100%. Add some serious investment in renewable energy, active travel, ultra-sustainable homes, and embed a deeper understanding of the planetary boundaries so that we focus less on consumption and growth, and more on thriving, inclusion, and enhancing prospects for the next generation, always improving the natural environment all around us. Agreed, Saul. Let's hope Norfolk Day 2024 is a greener Norfolk Day all around. Well, we've already heard a little from David Powles, progenitor of Norfolk Day. So to end, let's hear a whole lot more, recorded by the man himself and sent to our wonderful WhatsApp group. Here are some reflective Norfolk Day musings from David Powles.
Hello, Mike, and hello to the listeners of the Eastern Promise podcast. It's David Powles here, who you so generously described as the founder of the Feast of Norfolk Day. So you asked, what does Norfolk Day mean to us? What does Norfolk mean to us? And what would you like it to all be about? Well, I'm stood here in one of my favourite places of Norfolk. You can hopefully hear the sea lapping in the background, the sound of the gulls. I'm on the beach at Hemsby. So Norfolk, well, what a wonderful place it is. And for me, Norfolk Day is all about celebrating all that is so fantastic about this great county. The people, the places, the broads, the coasts, our fine city of Norwich, the towns, the communities, so many things. The list is endless. And I think that when we started Norfolk Day all those years ago, really it was about people celebrating this fine county and everything that makes us so lucky to be here. However, I think that there's got to be a but as well, Mike, because for me, I think that Norfolk Day should also be a chance to think about the challenges that we face in this county and how we might all try and do our bit to just make Norfolk a fairer place for people to live, a place where we maybe don't have as many of the haves and the have-nots as we sadly do. We know that there are some sad facts around poverty. We know that there are some really sort of sad things that happen in this county. I don't want to bring the mood down, but I think that also Norfolk Day should be about thinking about how you can play your part to make Norfolk a better place, whether that's through campaigning, whether that's through supporting a cause or a charity, or simply through just awareness and just making a difference in someone's lives. Because again, going back to Norfolk and Norfolk Day, it's all about the people, it's all about this wonderful county and this wonderful community. I hope everyone has a fantastic Norfolk Day. I haven't worked out what I shall be doing yet to mark it, but I will certainly be raising a toast to Norfolk, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to leave you this message. Take care and happy Norfolk Day, everyone.
Thank you, David, not just for that characteristically thoughtful Norfolk Day message, but for leading the creation of a day celebrating the county in the first place. For balance, Suffolk Day next year will be in June, and I promise to give it just as much love in 2024. And that's it for episode 71 of Eastern Promise. Thank you to Chris Starkie, to David Powles, and to Engineer 49, a Norfolk resident of many decades standing, who has been using his special yellow, black and white headphones and microphone covers today, which is perhaps why he's covered in bees. And to you. You could be doing anything right now, and you're choosing to spend your time with me. I am truly very grateful. And please do visit our website at easternpromise.org.uk, where you can listen to previous episodes and send me a message. I'll be back soon. So until then, bye for now. You can contact Eastern Promise and find out more about what we do by visiting our website, easternpromise.org.uk. Eastern Promise is a Priors-Croft production on behalf of the Eastern Promise East Anglia Community Interest Company.